A couple of months ago, I did a video explaining medium contrast makeup because for decades I could not figure out why my makeup looked either non-existent or clownish, even though I was following all the viral tips and techniques. So I wanted to go ahead and make a video on the actual makeup I would do as someone who is medium contrast, and I'll link the explanation video I did here just in case it would be helpful if you think you might also be medium contrast. So overall, medium contrast is basically all about balance. So for example, I was on a kick in the 2020s with the clean girl makeup routine. I tried so many versions of that based on tutorials I was seeing online, and I always looked like I didn't have any makeup on my face even though I did. And it wasn't like a cute no makeup look. It was like I put on all these products and where did they go? But then also several years ago when more of a full glam or a soft glam was really big, those always looked way too heavy and way too high contrast for me. I just didn't know it at the time. So moral of the story is that too little contrast can wash you out and make your features disappear, and too much contrast can overpower you. And I really think that once you understand your contrast level, your makeup can just look so much more harmonious and intentional on your face. So let's go through this look step by step. I'll explain what I'm doing, but also why I'm doing it and how it's different from how I might otherwise do my makeup if I didn't know about contrast levels. I'm starting with eyes because I'm using eyeshadow today and I do not like fallout. And one thing that I've found with medium contrast makeup is that, in my opinion, it looks better if you do kind of a monochromatic look from the lid all the way up into the crease. I used to follow kind of the traditional way of doing eyeshadow where you do a lighter shade on the lid in the inner corner, a darker shade in the crease, and then an even darker shade on the outer corner. But I feel like for medium contrast spaces, it just looks better if there's kind of an overall wash of color. So I'm using the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette, and I'm just gonna mix together some of these taupey kind of mauve-y shades. You can use literally whatever palette or whatever eyeshadows you have. I'm taking a massive blending brush and just mixing those colors together and just putting those colors all over my eyelid, way up into my crease. And we're just kind of creating a base here. That's all I'm going to do right now for my eyes, so I'm going to move on to my base and then I'll finish my eyes at the end. Take whatever foundation or skin tint you want, and the biggest tip that I've found for the base part of a medium contrast makeup routine is to avoid applying super pigmented products directly to your face. Sometimes when I'm running low on time, I'll just take my contour stick or my liquid blush and put it directly onto my cheek and then blend it out from there. But putting it on your hand first and kind of working it into your brush or your sponge just helps to make everything look better. So I'm taking some of my skin tint and putting it on the back of my hand, and then I'm going in with a foundation brush and just working that product into the brush and then just kind of pushing it into my skin. I feel like when I immediately use a beauty blender instead of a brush, I don't get enough coverage. So for me, I really like using a brush to do kind of that initial application and then blending everything with a sponge at the end to make it look a little bit more seamless. If you like a fuller coverage foundation look, I would go in with multiple small layers rather than starting with a ton of product right away. You can always add more, but it's harder to take away. Once that is blended in, I'm doing the same thing with my concealer. I'm putting some on the back of my hand, and I'm going to use a brush to place it. This is another one of those products that normally if I'm running low on time, I would just slap it directly onto my face and blend it from there, but it really does look better if you do it this way. So I'm pushing a little bit under my eyes where I get a lot of darkness. Put some on any blemishes, a little bit between my brows, chin. And then I'm going to let that just sit while I'm doing some other steps. The longer you let your concealer sit on your face, the more coverage you're going to get and the longer it's going to last. So let's move on to contour slash bronzer. This is going to get really repetitive here, but again, I'm putting some right on the back of my hand and I'm working it into my brush before I touch my face. Okay, and then I'm just pushing that where I want the product. Just getting a little bit of definition here to pretend like I have a tan going. I'm gonna get a little bit more for the other side. And same thing. Okay, now I'm going back in with that concealer brush and just blending out the concealer now that it's sat for a little bit. Let's move on to liquid blush. I'm doing the same thing with this and putting it on the back of my hand. I like muted mauves, muted berries, very just natural flush looking shades for blush. You don't want to do anything too bright and loud because that's just going to clash against your face. But you also don't want to do something that's barely pigmented because it's literally going to disappear on your skin. Another thing with a medium contrast blush look is that you don't really want to apply a super intense blush in one concentrated spot. It's going to make it too difficult to blend out, and it's going to make it stand out too much on your face. It's also really helpful to look for blush application tips for your face shape. So for me, I have more of like an elongated oval face, so it looks better if I place my blush a little bit higher up and don't bring it super close into my nose, but it's different for all face shapes. So that's another good tip if you're trying to find the best makeup for you, look into placement for your face shape. I'm going to set my liquid bronzer with a little bit of powder bronzer and then place this right over where I had the liquid bronzer. If you're doing this in a hurry and you don't want all of these extra steps, you can totally skip setting your bronzer and your blush with powder products. I just think it makes your makeup last longer throughout the day. And I'm not really someone who does touch-ups throughout the day. So if I'm gonna do my makeup, I want it to just last as long as I need it to last. So next I'm setting the powder blush. This is a super natural, medium toned kind of mauve rosy shade. Anything lighter than this would vanish on my face, and anything brighter than this for the most part would stand out too much and just clash with my features. I also like to take whatever is left over on this blush brush and just run it over my eyes. It makes everything a little bit more cohesive and kind of ties the whole look together. Okay, for brows, I've never had great eyebrows. I've never liked my eyebrows, but my goal with my brows is to make them look structured but not overly carved out. I think softer brow tones work better for a medium contrast face than super dark brows. So when you're looking at a brow product, I would always go 1 to 2 shades lighter than whatever color your brows naturally are. Just taking one of those little brow pens and just doing the littlest bit of defining areas where my brows are a little bit sparse. What is this hair doing? And then just be sure to blend out whatever product you put down. Let's go ahead and do lips next. My lip choices are very similar to my blush choices in terms of tones. So mauves, roses, berries, very balanced pinks, and just medium depth shades overall. Super pale nudes can completely wash you out, but really dark, high contrast colors can overpower your face so quickly. I'm just starting with a kind of medium nude shade liner. And just lining away, just blending it out with my finger. And then my personal favorite lipstick shade for a medium contrast look is Syrup by MAC. This is just the most perfect everyday muted berry. Just popping that on. And then I always like a little sparkle, so I'm just adding a shimmery gloss. Maybe I just put gloss in the center. Let's finish off the eyes. This is completely optional, but if you want a little bit of a shimmer, take any sort of sheer shimmer color and put it right in the middle of your lid. I used to put shimmery shades closer to my inner corner, and that just kind of pushes the look into a little bit higher of a contrast level than I want. So this keeps everything just really muted and subtle. Then I'm taking a really thin eyeliner brush and just going into whatever brown is in the palette that I'm using. And I'm really pushing that into my lashes. I always go with a brown eyeliner. It's just softer than a black. And using a powder like this is going to be softer than using a gel or a liquid. Same thing on the other side. I also always go for a brown mascara or a black brown mascara over a true black. I used to be that girl that would always pick the most dramatic black mascara I could find. Now I think softer is better. I have also found, as someone who is medium contrast, that I cannot handle a dramatic strip lash. That doesn't mean though that you can't do lashes at all. So today I'm gonna throw on a couple of these little lash trios, and these are brown lashes. And I'm just gonna put 2 on each eye just so you can see how you can get a little bit more definition without having a full heavy strip on your eyes. Because of my eye shape, I try not to put any lashes on the very outer edge of my eye like I used to. I try to start them like 3/4 of the way in now, and then the second lash will go right in the middle. I feel like I get paralyzed when I do this, like I can't move, I can't breathe. this is my go-to medium contrast makeup. I really hope this was helpful. This is the type of video I wish I had when I was trying to figure all of this stuff out and couldn't find anything about it. If you're like I was and feel like your makeup was either too much or not enough, despite following all of the viral techniques, hopefully this maybe explains why if you're also medium contrast and gives you a little bit of inspiration of some different techniques and tips to kind of try with your makeup routine. So again, I hope this helps and thank you so much for watching.